Now, Q has warned us that we were going to hear certain individuals scream, and those individuals that are guilty of certain crimes are going to scream the loudest. And we're already starting to hear this. We're starting to hear the screams from the guilty, where they're telling us to go after the president, which is very interesting. We see Comey is calling for a coup, saying patriots need to reject the behavior of this president. Now, that tells me something. That tells me that James Comey is very worried. We also have former CIA Director John Brennan, who called Trump's performance nothing short of treasonous. We even had Obama come out of the woodwork, who said that people need to worry about the rise of strongman politics, that we need to be worried about certain leaders like Trump after Trump had the meeting with Putin. So when we look at certain individuals, we can see that these individuals, they're the beginning stages of all this, they're the ones out there screaming and yelling, not literally screaming, yelling, but are out there calling the president out because they realize that down the line, they're the ones who are guilty. And when you really look at what Mueller has done, he has charged 32 Russians and Americans, yet not one of them has been charged with collusion. So far, Mueller is 0 for 32. And again, most of these individuals, they're never going to stand trial. He has no evidence. He has absolutely nothing. And we need to understand is that Q has been telling us that the Patriots have all the information, the server, the emails, you name it, they know what's going on. The leaders of other countries, like Putin, for instance, he knows what's going on. You don't think they have intel? They're capturing communications. They know exactly what is going on. Remember, each country spies on each country. And this has been going on for a very long time, and they know exactly what has been going on here. And you can see that Putin, he is out there, and he dropped some bombshells during the meeting with Trump. And one of them is that he actually called out George Soros for meddling in U.S. elections. When asked about the many claims of interference and the FBI investigation into Russian collusion in the U.S. election, Putin referenced billionaire investor George Soros as an example of someone who actually does meddle in foreign elections. Putin asked whether Russia should also hold George Soros accountable for everything Soros has done to influence democracy while living in the United States. I mean, think about what is happening here. We're seeing it with China and Russia. They are becoming braver and braver as time goes on because they realize the deep state is losing power, and they're just calling out all these individuals. Putin made another bombshell claim against Clinton. And this was during the press conference with Trump in Helsinki. And the Russian president said some $400 million in illegally earned profits was funneled to the Clinton campaign by associates of American-born British financier Bill Browder, at one time the largest foreign portfolio investor in Russia. The scheme involved members of the U.S. intelligence community, said Putin, who he said accompanied and guided these transactions. Browder made billions in Russia during the 90s. In December, a Moscow court sentenced Browder to 9 years in prison for tax fraud, while he was also found guilty of tax evasion in a separate 2013 case. Putin accused Browder's associates of illegally earning over $1.5 billion without paying Russian taxes before sending $400 million to Clinton. Now, what we see here is they have no problems calling out all these individuals and what they've been doing. And they're just going out there, and they know they have, because they've been following the money, they know they have all this information. They know exactly what all these individuals are up to. And now they're not afraid. And we need to understand that these individuals, well, they're all dirty. I mean, look at this guy, Bill Browder. When we look at this individual, we need to understand who he is, what he's done. Browder is the man behind the 2012 Magnitsky Act, which exploited congressional willingness to demonize Russia and has done so much to poison relations between Washington and Moscow. The act sanctioned individual Russian officials, which Moscow has rightly seen as an unwarranted interference in the operation of its judicial system. Now, Browder claims that his accountant Sergei Magnitsky was a crusading lawyer who discovered a $230 million tax fraud scheme that involved the Browder business interest Hermitage Capital, but was, in fact, engineered by a corrupt Russian police officer who arrested Magnitsky and enabled his death in a Russian jail. Now, many have been skeptical of the Browder narrative, suspecting that the fraud was, in fact, concocted by Browder and his accountant Magnitsky. So the question is, why was such a man granted credibility and allowed a free run to poison the virtually important U.S.-Russia relationship of Maryland? And the answer to all this is follow the money. Browder was a major contributor to Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland, who was the major force behind the Magnitsky Act, and also gave funds to Clinton. So we see right now, all you need to do is follow the money, and you find out what is going on. Now, we understand that the deep state, they were having regime change in many different countries. Sudan was one of them. We understand it was Iraq. It was trying to be Syria. We know Lebanon. We know Libya. We know Ukraine. And we see right now, as the deep state continually pushed their agenda in all these different areas, all we never saw peace on the horizon. There was never any signs of peace because the deep state didn't want peace, because those individuals that were trying to remove the puppet governments that the deep state put in there, they were considered terrorists. But now, since the deep state has been removed from certain areas like Sudan, we see the South Sudanese government and its rebel opponents, they agreed to a security deal ahead of what many observers are hoping will be a comprehensive settlement for ending the civil war. Now, the accord calls for the national military and a coalition of rebels to withdraw from all cities and civilian areas such as schools, refugee camps, in the run-up to the country entering into a 3-year-long political transition that will be promulgated through a forthcoming peace agreement. The warring factions recently committed to the roadmap during talks in the Sudanese capital, and we can see right now they are on their way to having peace. Now, out in Afghanistan, we understand that President Ghani continually tried to push a peace deal at the Taliban, and he even pushed it out to a year, saying, let's talk about this. Now the Trump administration has issued orders to U.S. diplomats to seek direct talks with the Taliban in Afghanistan to bring together a peace deal to end the war in Afghanistan. General John Nicholson followed this up by saying that he is ready for direct talks with the Taliban in an effort to end the 17-year-long war. He says the U.S. must have a key role in the talks. So, once again, we see that things are now changing for the good. So the plan that was set into motion to bring troops home is definitely in motion. Remember, Q has been telling us that November 11th is going to be the parade of all parades. And one of the things that we think is going to happen is that many of the individuals that were out in all these countries, they are going to be coming home. The wars are going to come to an end. Remember, these wars were created by the deep state. Actually, they were created from lies. And they forced the American people to go to war for their lies. We see out in Syria, the U.S.-backed forces, the Syrian government, they're going to be holding peace talks, and they're going to be talking about peace. Now, we know that Trump has met with Putin, and we see at this point that Trump says cooperation between the U.S. and Russia, it can save thousands of lives. Basically what he's doing, he's laying the groundwork right now, telling the world that Russia and the U.S. is going to be working together, and they're working together to get rid of the paid mercenary army. That's what this is all about, and to bring the troops home. Now, once again, we have Bolton out there saying that, we're not going to leave Syria until Iran is removed from Syria. This was completely planned. It was to get the message out there that this is the plan in Syria and also in Iraq. And what's going to happen here, because we can see that Putin is already on board, because they're already saying, and Putin is saying, that after the defeat of terrorists in southern Syria, the situation in Golan Heights must be brought in compliance with the 1974 agreement. So that means that Assad is going to be allowed in this area once again, and they will abide by the 1974 agreement. What this means is that Putin is going to be speaking to Assad. Assad then is going to ask the Iranian forces to leave this area. So when we look at the entire situation right now, we can see that Putin, Trump, Xi Jinping, now North Korea, soon to be Syria, we're going to see peace in all these different areas. And Russia, China, they've been working with Trump to push this agenda forward. And now, since Trump has had the meeting with Putin, it's going to go even further. Now, once again, the deep state is not just going to sit back. You can see already that they're screaming and yelling. And these individuals that are going to scream louder and louder and louder, these are the guilty players. And soon we're going to hear Clinton screaming or yelling, or she's just going to run along with Bill Clinton. But we'll have to see how that plays out. But we can see right now, once the IG report is declassified and we get the unredacted report, everything will change from that point on. And we are approaching this because we can see the plan that was laid out is all coming true right now. And we are now in the middle of July, which means the declassification of the IG report most likely will be coming at the end of July or the beginning of August. And this will lay the groundwork for everything else. Remember, November is completely 11th right now is the date that Q gave us where we're going to see the parade of all parades. Now think about this. Releasing this IG report, which is completely declassified, this will start the ball rolling. And yes, there'll be a lot of people that reject it, a lot of people that are angry. This will go on for quite a bit. The deep state might even push individuals like Antifa and the rest to riot, to say this is fake and phony, don't believe it. We need to get this president who's trying to do whatever he's trying to do. And they're going to make up a whole story and whatnot. But when you really look at this, what is going to happen here? Other questions are going to come up. Where's the DNC server? Where are all the emails? Where's all the data from WikiLeaks? And all of a sudden, that then can be produced because questions are being asked, and all of a sudden, those things can be produced. Assange can be produced because according to Q, we understand that most likely he is with or in the custody of the U.S. right now, and they are protecting him. And they have all the information from Assange. So we can see right now, this will lay the foundation, the framework for what is about to happen. And as we move forward, it will give time for America to heal, to get the truth out there. Now, of course, the corporate media is going to try to cover this completely up. They don't want any of this being out there. Those individuals like Comey and Brennan and Clinton and the rest, they're going to be screaming and yelling. The corporate media is going to be screaming and yelling. And basically what's going to happen, I think, at this point is that we're going to see the indictments. They're going to be let out. And all these individuals, they will then be scrambling all over the place. They won't know what to do. And we're going to see chaos, I think, during this period of time. And this is why Q has been out there saying that we're going to need to guide many of these people because they're going to be angry. They're going to be rejecting all of this. And the whole thing, for a short period of time, I do believe is going to be a nightmare. Now, of course, the deep state, what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to push this a lot harder, where there's a lot of chaos, where there's a lot of rioting, where there's a lot of everything, and they're going to try to do whatever they possibly can. Just like when Trump was elected, we saw Antifa out there smashing things and doing things, but it really didn't get off the ground, and I don't think they're going to be able to get this off the ground. I think this is going to be a dead end approach. And once they realize that it is a dead end approach, it is game over. And all these people that are screaming and yelling, well, they're going to be going into hiding or they're going to suicide themselves. So we can see that everything is being laid out. The plan is on track right now, and we are moving forward.